It felt like his arrival at Old Trafford had been inevitable for about 6 straight transfer windows. Both parties played hard to get, as United claimed they weren't chasing Sancho, while the player himself claimed he wasn't interested. The deal was eventually completed in July 2021 for a whopping $85 million. There's often a premium cost that outstrips the value in the Premier League to buy English talent. And in Sancho, Man United felt they were investing in one of the hottest young players in Europe. They were ready to give him the platform to kick on and become a world beater on a massive stage. As it turned out, Sancho's been unable to make himself a regular starter in his 2 seasons at the club. Still only young and with all the ability in the world, there's no doubt he can still have a future at the club. Pogba's flashy arrival at Old Trafford should have set alarm bells ringing from day one. The Frenchman was often accused of style over substance, and as he arrived for his medical amidst a convoy of expensive sports cars, a sign of what was to come was there for all to see. On his day, he's capable of being the best midfielder in the world, a complete player that can do everything. He's able to dominate the midfield and control a game from start to finish. In reality, things were very different. Having progressed through the United Academy, he was allowed to join Juventus on a free transfer as a 19-year-old. It was in Serie A where he really made his name and positioned himself as one of the most formidable players in the world. So much so that United swallowed a gigantic slice of humble pie to break the world transfer record in order to bring Pogba back to Old Trafford. United had their man through the door once again, only this time they were out of pocket to the tune of $105 million. Having let him walk for nothing just a few years earlier, this deal was already a catastrophic flop, before Pogba even stepped foot on the pitch. The French World Cup winner would spend the next 6 years at United, but the relationship between club and player never felt right. The club demanded more from their prized asset, and Pogba seemed less than inclined to deliver. His late move from Ajax to Manchester United had been speculated for most of the window, following his old boss's appointment at Man United. So, when a deal was struck to bring the exciting wide man to Old Trafford, it was hardly a surprise. What was a surprise was the $95 million that the club had to shell out to get their man. But as a highly touted and hugely exciting forward player at just 22, it was considered a future-proof deal. With that said, I think we can all admit that we were expecting considerably more from United's key summer signing. Between the flicks and stepovers, we've seen a little to justify that huge fee that saw Ajax laughing all the way to the bank. Although he's played over 30 games for his new team, less than half of them have come in the Premier League, where he scored just 3 goals so far. It's not an understatement that Harry Maguire had a torrid time since signing for United for $87 million from Leicester. Maguire had been a dominant force in his 2 years with the Foxes, but once again, eyebrows were raised at the cost of the transfer in 2019. His whopping fee eclipsed that of Van Dijk to Liverpool the year before and made him the most expensive defender in the world. A strong start to life in United Red led him to being appointed new club captain in January 2020. However, he has since been heavily criticized for his performances for much of his time in the last couple of seasons. After United endured their lowest points total for a Premier League season in 2021, Maguire found himself in the firing line from fans and pundits alike. He admitted to enduring a tough time, and that would continue following the arrival of Ten Hag. It's a common topic amongst England fans that they have more depth at right back than any team in the world. James Reese, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ben White, their options appear endless. But what is telling about that glittering list of talent is a name that isn't on it, and that's Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And for somebody that cost $55 million, that's not a great sign of progress. He's far from a regular in United's team, and with the options ahead of him for England, an international call-up seems as far away for Wan-Bissaka. It wasn't often that Sir Alex Ferguson got transfers wrong, but this was certainly one of them. The $42 million deal was actually considered to be a huge coup for the club, with fans and players alike excited to be signing the Argentinian star. But that excitement didn't last. His time at United started well, but as the season drew on, he struggled with fatigue and the demands of the Premier League. His time at Old Trafford lasted just 2 seasons before he was sold to rivals Chelsea at a half-price deal for what they paid themselves. Angel Di Maria arrived in Manchester to much acclaim and fanfare as the new British transfer record. United paid Real Madrid $75 million in 2014 for the dynamic winger, and they expected a significant return on their investment. But that's not what they got. After just one disastrous season at the club, he was labeled as the worst signing of the season and promptly shipped out to PSG. When Eric Bailly was signed from Villarreal for $38 million in 2016, he was supposed to be the foundational rock which the United defense would be built around for the next decade. However, nothing could be further from reality. A combination of injuries and terrible form have meant that Bailly has played just 113 Premier League games in 6 seasons with the club. He's currently on loan at Marseille, and it doesn't exactly look likely that he's going to have a triumphant return to galvanize the United defense.